Well, okay, so I see that here we already have our students from Music Academy. We have Miroslav Tropomuk, who is both journalist and sound artist. We have Tanya Fischer, who is a journalist in deep radio. We have also Andrei Kabarizzi, who is an active artist and is one of lover of electroacoustic music. And we have who is also a composer from Music Academy. So I think that we already and is Mikola Krzanowski, who is one of these students who will go to this course in Krakow. Yes. Okay. Bogdana i Oleg, yes, and also our students. То що ж, друзі, я думаю, що розпочинаємо, відновлюємо після довгої перерви засідання клубу Т.А.М. І, власне, сьогодні в нас в гостях blackhole-factory з Брауншвайгу. І насамперед мені здається, що дуже цікава для нас є досвід німецьких митців в тому, як організовувати якісь незалежні такі мистецькі ініціативи і, власне, діяти як незалежна мистецька група, поступово здобуваючи щораз більшу підтримку. Okay, so you know, we talk. So maybe I'll translate if you need translation or no, or how we'll organize it. It might be in English. No?
In English.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So if English is okay, so then it's even better. Well, so I said very briefly. So we have the information on web page about your history that you founded like independent group in 1990. But we a lot here in Ziga. We spend a lot of time of talking of perspectives for independent artists. How is the way for independent artists to create their own group or something like that and be this group? So what's the possibility for being have success for such kind of independent group with no you know, government support and so on and so on? So because it's difficult that you need to have some space for rehearsals and so on. So maybe how it look in Germany and well, how it was in your case.
In the beginning it was easier than now to have support by the state or by foundations and cities or regional helpers. It is getting worse now. So sometimes when young people ask me how to get into this way of living, I don't recommend doing it because it's an adventure which you cannot plan. There's no possibility to plan your future when you decide to be an artist.
So you mean when you decide just to stop all your other activities, I mean regular activities, and start to be independent artist? Yes.
Yeah, we both have a different background. I was playing percussion in bands and studied African and Latin American music, and Elke was working in a part of a physical theater group, which were quite successful. And so we had both our income by doing our art, but not our art, but like my music, like playing Latin music or something like this. And then we it changed in 2000 or 99. We decided to stop all these other activities we had and just make our own projects. And it was in the beginning, it was a bit difficult for us because I had good income by playing music and also giving. I had a lot of students teaching percussion, so I had a really good income by this. And suddenly I said, okay, I don't want to go on with this because I want to focus on my own artwork, want to develop that. And all my colleagues from the musician scene, they said, you're stupid because you practice so much and you have a good income, and now you said you want to be an artist. Why do you want to do this? You're stupid. You will end up in the street and don't know what to eat. And so. Elke, she was in this theater group, and they really early developed talking to foundations and to the government to get support from the state for theater pieces. So we decided when we start working together, no matter what we are doing, we will always say it's theater, because the theater department on the state has a quite good funding for independent groups in those times. So we always, no matter what we did, we said it's a theater piece, and we applied for money from the state. So from that we had the luck to come into this line of being funded by the government and also by foundations from the city. And it was a lot of fighting for us that because we're not doing theater, we're doing more like media, experimental things, installations, and it was a lot of fighting to explain them that it's still like stage work, because we're not like digital artists. Our stuff is always on a stage, yes, in a room. It's different from doing just like digital work, like video art or pure sound art. So we always said it's kind of theater what we're doing, because it's a space, it's a room, and we are doing something, and we are telling us like a story, even if it's a really abstract story. The musician department say you're not doing music. The theatrical department say you're not doing theater. And the video or film department say you're not doing film. So we say so you're not professional. You're not doing film. Yeah. The only place where we feel at home is the theater department. So we have to give us the money. I see. So and we got quite successful with it. So they now since several years they said okay, they're doing theater in a way, so they're giving us funding from the theater department, because the theater department has much more money than music or music department.
But sorry, is it Department of Government of Land?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see.
Yes, and also foundations have their own rules, how they support arts. So some say it doesn't matter what you do, if we are interested in the materials we are producing, then we will fund. And others say it has to be in this and this direction, and talking about the place, the city, or it has to be a special thing for them. So it is a difficult way to find out who's talking about art in which way in the foundations, because this is not very abstract, it's people. And you have to find a way how to talk to these personal characters, and then find how to deal with them. That's what I learned in all these years. What's the most important, that you have to know to whom you are talking, and then you can start to build up a connection and find out if they are the right persons to talk to, or if you are going wrong when you write applications of 20-30 pages and everything is wonderful, but they are the wrong people to talk to. So always to find these balances, personal connection, and what is the aim of a foundation, or what is the political situation in cultural politics when you go to government places.
But all that is not like sponsoring. It's like money for art, and so it's different from sponsoring, where a sponsor says you have to put our logo in the back, or you have to do like this and this for an audience. Stuff we are doing, we get money, and the foundations or the government says don't care about the audience. If they don't like it, no problem, because we know that you're making interesting work, and it's important that you confront audience with this kind of stuff. It's nothing we have to do, like making some compromises so that people can understand it really good, or that they have to like it, otherwise we don't get any money. So they said you can do what you are planning, do what you want, make your art, and you get money for it. So that's really a special thing.
Yeah, so there are no such thing, because we have a very stupid situation when we apply for support from city government or regional government. There are the very stupid questions in this application for, so how you, what was ну, як сказати, показник. Okay, so what was the mark that when we know that this event was success or not success? And how many people will come to your event, and how many people will be happy after?
We get asked this too, but there is a possibility to deal with this when you have in your application you have to say what is the aim of your project. When you say in the first line, I want to have 2,000 people in the audience, then it's a mistake to write. You have to have different aims to talk about. Like for me, it is very important to set up a new space, which I want to present then, or we want to have an ensemble work. So for the project, it is very important that the people stay together and can present the work together. So you have to find out how to talk about aims in the project, which you can afterwards really say this happened. So if you say too many people in the audience, then it's difficult, because then you fail. If you cannot do that, or you want to be in the television show, this or that.
Yeah, we always say more like we want an aim of the project is that we want to present this kind of new art form to an audience which doesn't know anything about it. And we want to bring like some international contacts to our city, which is not a big city. Braunschweig is like 250,000 people, and it's a bit conservative and not so on the edge of art. It's more like consuming, shopping style. So we say, okay, we want to bring new art forms to the people in the city, that they know this, and that they learn something about contemporary art. And then we invite the audience for a talk where we explain stuff. So we not only present it and say, here, eat this, but also talk about it, and that the audience get educated in a way to understand this kind of work. And, we never say we want to earn such amount of money with entrance, because we cannot say if there are 10 people or 50 people or 100 people, we cannot say it, because we don't calculate our projects for getting a lot of audience. We do our best to make the project as good as possible and as interesting as possible, but if nobody wants to come because outside there's a street party with sausages and beer, of course nobody will come to our show. But we cannot make a competition with this kind of stuff. So we said, even if there are 10 people and they like it, and they pay everybody pays like 10 euros, so we get 100 euros at the end for a project that costs 30,000 euros or something. Of course it's nothing as an income, but we say this is not, we don't accept the amount of money or audience as an aim for us. And it was a lot of discussion with the foundations and also with the city to come to this point, but now they take it, now they understand it. And now I think now they give us money because we are so straight in this line, so we don't make any compromise about making it more comfortable for the people.
It's a problem to talk about commercial, because well, the rest of the world
is commercial. Yeah. And a very interesting question. So, but usually when you organize concert or the artists in contemporary art, in audiovisual art, when they organize concerts, so in Germany there are still so in every concert there are usually tickets. So in all concerts there are usually tickets. So there are the practice of free entrance concerts.
Sometimes they are, but normally still it is that you have to pay for it. Sometimes if it's a special project where you say, for example, you make a work which is like a more social project, for example, with people from a special community which don't have a lot of money, and you work with them and you present the work, then you can say it's for free because all their friends can come to see it, or you open it. But for normal projects, we say it's you have to pay for the entrance.
How much?
In our space, we said it's about like 12 euros normal and 5 euros reduced for students and people, and it's quite cheap in Germany.
In festivals, art, media art, maybe free.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But we are organizing our stuff in our own studio, and we don't organize big festivals. So of course, when we play somewhere at a festival, then of course it can be free. But then it's not our own project in our production time. So when we make a production which is funded, like a project, we have to say we want to make like 10 shows or 10 events with a project in our space, so that people has a chance to see it, and so we say, okay, you have to pay like 12 euros for entrance.
And in the huge festivals in Germany, entrances are very expensive sometimes, about 30 euros.
Even 80 euros.
It's not normal that entrances are
And a beer, yeah. The light local.
the same for me as well.
Постав питання давай.
And which teams are interested for the government? So you say that some teams are interesting and some are not.
It depends where you apply. If you go to the city, to our city, the city likes it more easy, and they are more like in the way the audience has to like it. So they are supporting. They like to support projects which are quite simple and not commercial, but nice projects. No matter if it's a film or a performance or a sound stuff, but it should not be asked too much from the audience. It's more like not so much on the edge. So, but if you go to the Ministry of Culture from our country, they like it when they can see that the idea is really far developed and you're doing some new stuff, and there you can, if you present it in a good way, you can go as far out as you want. And I think often it's better to go more far than to try to repeat something, and because they are funding a lot, like all this established theater things and performance art, which are in a way doing not every time the same, but the art form is established and it's not so on the edge. So they like if you break this and you present something new, which is and it can be really strange for our stuff if you present it in a good way.
Yeah,
Because
you have to be sure about what you're talking about, and it should be very elaborated, but then you can go a very challenging way with the materials.
There's a team of specialists who look at the proposals, like people from different theaters and art curators. So if you apply for money, they look through the proposals and they read it, and so it's not that easy to.
There's not such thing like top teams. For example, in Poland, everywhere should be something from Chopin, like concerts with Chopin or something. Social teams.
No. In this Ministry of Culture from the state, if you say you make something social, they will throw you out. Then they say go to the other department who is doing social stuff. Because we don't fund social work, we are funding art. So we have to make art.
And all these cultural foundations are talking about innovation, so they are interested in new materials and this classical materials also at theater. That's a different discussion. It's not very talking.
Yeah, but you mentioned about this different way for social project and artistic project, but I remember that maybe I'm wrong, but I think that you presented in Krakow in studio some work with like a theatrical performance for I'm not sure if disabled people.
Yes.
It's part of our work. We are the main work we're doing is this blackhole-factory thing, but we're also doing, we're directing a group of people with mental disabilities or special needs or learning difficulties, or you want to say. And we are doing this since 14 years, and we're doing one production every year, and they are paying us for about 650 hours each year. We have an amount we can work with them 650 hours each year, and for that we have to make one production.
And that is different. This is not on the application line is absolutely different. The organization. Oh, that's a big one. Thank you. The organization who is taking care of the actors in the group is applying for funds for this theater. So we are writing the text about what we will do for the next year.
Yeah, but we are not applying for money. The institution is paying us, and for us it's like in a way it's like a job. But it's a really crazy job, because also with them we can do whatever we want. So the institution also don't say you have to make it like a nice work. We make really crazy ideas with the group. And
sometimes they are happy when we make it easier, but they also did extremely performative shows where they went really far out of the idea of what was theater 100 years ago.
But this group is not funded, for example, this group is not funded by this Ministry of Culture, from this art money, because they say that social work is what you're doing. And, even if it's really art, social work, it's still social work, so they're not funding it. It's from the most of the money is coming from a really big institution in Germany, which is a foundation which is looking for people with disabilities. So they're giving the most of the money, but to the institution, and the institution is paying us for working with them, and also they pay a bit of the rent of our studio and some technical equipment. So for us, it's good to get also some support from this work for our studio, because otherwise it would be too expensive for us to.
Yeah, it's a really good deal to have this job and working with them. On one way, and on the other way, it is artistically a very interesting challenge to work with this group of actors who are personally very special. It is very interesting because in the beginning we had to learn how to bring ideas to them in a way that they can understand where we are going, and also teach a new way of theater, because they did not even know about theater. They had seen some like children's theater or some easy stuff, so then we came and said, no, we don't do this, we don't do fairy tales, we don't talk about this and that, we talk about people and we are what we personally want to say and bring to the audience. And so they started to develop vision about what is modern contemporary theater or performance. And after 14 years, they are great. So for us, it was also artistically a very interesting challenge to find out what we can develop with this group, and which way we would go with them, also in things about in the ideas what we will talk about with them on stage.
And maybe it's a completely different question, but why you decide to work exactly in such kind of, I mean, in audio-visual performative scenes, because you have background of traditional musicians, yeah, and
Yeah.
because I'm sorry, because you know, for a lot of I know a lot of people who are traditional musicians, and for them, you know, using a computer, using of programs and so on, it's saying, oh, no, I just play an instrument and so on.
Yeah, for me, it's my history is really broken. I was not a straight musician from the beginning. I started studying electronics for a really short time, and then I quit it and I went to West Africa to learn drumming because I was annoyed by this perspective, being an electronic engineer. So I went to Africa to start playing music, and this was nearly the first time I played music. I had no musical background when I went to Africa. And then I said, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to learn percussion. I start practicing all the time, and gave me a deadline, and I said, if I would be able to make my living from that, I will go on. Otherwise, I have to look for something else. And so it went really good that I get enough money from playing percussion. So I make this music, and but before I started with this, I was a lot in this making experiments with photograph and writing crazy text, but without any idea what I was doing, because I had no experience in, or no knowledge of art. It was just more intuitive things. And then when I was playing percussion, after a while, I recognized that I don't want to play all the time Guantanamera or the Chan-Chan and this African music, because I'm not such a happy guy on stage, like a rock music or pop music guy or African music guy who's always dancing. It was a good development for me to learn all these rhythms, and I learned a lot and met a lot of interesting people. But after a while, I said, oh, I want to go in a different direction. And then I met Elke, and she came from this experimental physical theater thing, and we started working together too. And then I said, okay, my percussion instruments cannot give me the sounds I want to have for this, because the percussion instruments are too friendly for me. If I play a conga drum, I cannot make this kind of sound I want to have for this deep atmospheric thing. So, and I tried a little bit playing like metal stuff, Oasis stuff, and then a friend told me, yeah, perhaps you know, if you use a computer and use this live sampling software from Stein, from Amsterdam, perhaps you can develop your own sounds. And I tried it, and then after really quick, I went from this software to this Max MSP software, Cycling 74. That was the like for me, like finding my instrument and coming to where I can realize all my sound ideas I had in my mind. And then I had to decide if I want to go on with playing percussion, because then I had to practice every day like 4 or 5 hours, or if I want to go deeper in this programming and experimental thing. So I had to decide, and I said, okay, I quit this and try to make this experimental road. It was a really good decision.
Definitely. Yeah. And so you, for the very beginning, you start to do like a performance just for percussion, electronic, and voice, and some. So in the beginning, it was also some element of theater. I mean, some performing on stage. Yes.
Yes, we. I guess in all our projects, the space is important. So we are both very interested in changing spaces and perception of spaces. Even if sometimes we don't equip spaces with a lot of things, we have in mind how the perception of the space around is important for listening, for deeper listening, for deeper perception. So we had, especially in the beginning, a big interest in working with video too, because there is a new, for us it was another way of planning the space, working with the space, and when you stop jumping around, you have this moving space still around with this abstract pictures around, and you don't need so many other lights. So we took the video idea for having another light situation in the space and another connection to the walls, because walls start to disappear or to be not important anymore, but giving you visions into another a deeper space. So where was I beginning? Where was I beginning? I don't know. I got lost in why did I say that?
It was because of the question that in the beginning we make audio.
Audiovisual with
Yeah,
performance.
right. And
Performance,
we stay in this space and theatrical thinking.
We still do it from.
We do.
It's different. Sometimes we make like pure installations with like self-deciding software, which is changing the room sometimes depending on entrance of audience. Sometimes because of sensor data coming from outside or something, and sometimes it's like more like music or audiovisual performances where we sit on like this laptop acts, but with some sound objects and singing, and sometimes it's more like a performance where we do some stuff on stage, where we like also work with text sometimes, but mostly in a really abstract thing. But it always depends on the subject, on the project we are working. It's our style of developing projects is not so much that we say, okay, we are musicians or we are audiovisual artists and we are doing an audiovisual thing. It's more like that we have an idea about what we want to talk about, what's the idea we want to explain, and then we look for how we can do it with our possibilities we have. And so when we first explain the idea, for example, for applying for money, it's normally about 1 year before we do the project. So we have an idea. We sit there and say, oh, we could do this or this, or we want to do this, we want to go in this, this is really interesting for us. So then we have to start to write, because we know on the 15th of October, the application has to be at the Ministry of Culture. Sometimes then it's a bit of pressure, because you are just in the project, in the running project from this year, and then you have to think about what we want to do next year. So it's always also important to write it so vague, so not so concrete, so that you have the possibility to change when you start working with it. And
but normally it's something like a very vague idea, but we are talking very long about this idea before constructing a project on it. And so what we can say about the origin of the projects, most of them are like philosophical discussions, or starting with a picture which is following us for a longer time, like this project. I think we spoke about it in Krakow last year. This the flight of the sea swallow. This picture of this animal which every year flies from the North Pole to the South Pole and back, and the idea of this movement, the idea of the construction of the world, and so on. So this was a little phrase of a book by Bruce Chatwin, and gave us the possibility to make a huge installation and performance then, which was reconstructing a world of 4 people.
Well, and sorry, so
this like origins of the, when you ask for origins of the words.
Yes, and so I have a question. So this performance, do you have your own space where you at first tried? So you have it's something like a small theater, or it's this place, this hall? Yes.
Yeah, it's about 120 square meters. Space. So normally we have like 8 to 8 meters like stage, and 8 to 8 meters for audience. Like sitting, we can put like 65 people in it.
Right.
And of course we can also change the room, so take all the chairs for the people out, like for making parties or making concerts. We can empty it totally, and we have a light system. We have like metal pipes on the ceiling to hang theater lights, and we have a good sound system. And also we have a second room which is about 60 square meters, like an office, and which we use as a bar when we make public things. And then we have a little, it's like a store.
You also have something like a permission to sell, sell drinks and food?
Yes,
Wow.
that's easy.
But it's easy in Germany to have, like, I have a license that I can go outside in the street at a party and sell some bottles of beer. And normally it's for people who are going from one place to the other. Not on a fixed
like going
place.
to markets.
Yeah. And it was like 20 euros for my lifetime. I ordered it. I get it some years ago, and it was really cheap. And I explained what we want to do, that we have a theater, a performance space, and we want to sell drinks, and how can we do this officially? And he said, best would be if you get this license. And then I got it, and when I got the license, the woman asked, what is it for? And I explained it, it's for our performance space. And said, no, that's for if we change places. I said, yeah, but your colleague says we have to buy this, and now I have it, and so please let me do this. And she said, okay, go. So it's stupid. So it's not like a bar license, but I can sell alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks, and also like sausages or something. No. But nobody is caring about us because it's a really little thing. We only do about.
How much costs something like that for a year? Or
the space?
This license.
This license? Oh, I only paid like 20 euros once, and it's for until I die, I think. They changed it. Some years ago it was about 600 euros or something, but they changed it. I don't know why. Now it's really cheap.
And you have to make this tax declaration, but there is not much.
We say we drink it more or less all the same, all for us, so we don't make any profit.
Great. Well, also I have a question about this space, because you see in Lviv it's really a very important problem that we have not so much spaces for for artists and for artistic events. So actually, Zega it's really one of very important, huge spaces which was founded in the 94, I think, 1994 or 93. I'm not sure. And also this Gunpowder Tower, where is a concert hall, which was using for for performances and sometimes for contemporary music concerts. But we have few people who try to organize some spaces like in huge apartments on the ground floor or something like that, but it was so there are no success for that. So but I know also in we have a huge space like a building from some not plant, but it was like a fabrica, like some industry building, and a lot of times artists spent on talking that we need to put some revitalization process for this industry building, like being space for galleries, concerts, and so on. But it was all the time. It was with no interest from government or from sponsors and so on. But I know that in Germany something in some cities where the government encourage artists and so on to take some spaces for revitalization. So, what was your story about this space? So, this is a space in normal building, or is like in?
It's an industrial. Old industrial building. It was a former experimental mill. Where it's a huge factory where they're producing like industrial food production machines and mills. It's an international factory from Switzerland, and this was the building for doing experiments with new machines.
It's 100 years old, and they had in the whole building they had small mill systems. And on one half of the building, on the smaller half of the building where we have our bar now, they had the laboratoriums where they had they made flour of different grains, and then they went to the laboratorium and they cooked it, and they baked it, and they tried out how the quality is. So they had this in this house was really beautiful equipped. But when we saw it first time, but then when we could rent it, they took everything out, all the machines and all the installations, and we had to renovate it about a year. Yeah,
you see the floor here. They were when we came in. They were like really huge holes in the floor, in the concrete floor, because there were like pipes going from the we are in the base in the first floor, and there were really big pipes from the second floor until the basement. So there were really huge holes in the concrete, and the guy who was renting it, he said, if you want to take it, you have to do everything by yourself.
He's renting it cheap,
quite
in a way.
cheap, yeah. So we had to make concrete for months, and with this metal thing to drill holes in the concrete, put the metal thing, and make a wooden construction from underneath so that we can fill concrete in, so that we get a real space we can use. So that was about 1 year of really hard work. Yeah. It took a lot of energy and physical energy. but for that the rent is quite cheap for Braunschweig.
It was
Not-
here
not
without
really cheap.
concept. It was here without concept.
Yeah, it was with oh no, not right.
No,
When-
you
when
organized
we-
concert of industrial boys.
No, that year I organized a whole festival for the organization. No, this we had to do a lot of work with it, and then now it is 5 years we are there, and last year we founded an organization with all the other theaters in the Braunschweig. To get more power in the cultural politics in the region, and they managed, we all together managed to get funding for the production spaces, so that we
They
get,
pay the rent
they
for
pay a part of
production.
the rent for such a space. So that's put a very new thing, a new, was heißt Sieg?
A success.
A success, yeah.
Because when we went into the space, it was clear that there's no funding for the space, so we had to pay from our production monies from projects or private or whatever. So we said, okay, and it's about like 1,000 euros each month, so it's quite a lot of amount of money. When you sign the contract, you say, oh, 12,000 euros a year, that could be dangerous. So we have to find a way so that we can handle it. But we had this contract with the organization of the disabled people. They say, okay, we go in with you and we pay half of the rent. So we said, okay, then it's not so much money. And then we went to the city to ask if we can get any funding for the space. And they always said, no, we are already funding independent theater in the city. And if you want to work, you can go to the theater and rent it. So you will never get money from us for your space because you're too crazy and you will never get money. But then last year or 2 years ago, we organized this organization of all independent theater groups.
Like an association.
Yeah. And then we went all together to the city and said, okay, we want to have some support for our rehearsal rooms. So we got it this year for the first time, and so now we get nearly half the amount of money from the city, and the other half is coming from the foundation. So now we get it more or less for free, so it's perfect.
So we can relax for 2 years, then we don't know.
It's always a
Later we
game.
don't know.
You never know if there will come any money for this year or for next year, because we don't have any contracts. Even if with the organization, the disabled organization, we don't have a contract over several years. It's just from 1 year to the next year. So we never know if next year we have any money, or so we have to be in your mind. You always have to be really flexible. 1 year could be really, oh, we can buy this and we can do this and we can travel here, and it could be that next year you have to go to wash cars or sell sausages in the street.
So we could always live in permanent alert, or just relax and do.
And up to now it's working, so it's fun.
Well, and so maybe because you know, I saw already a few of your performances, and I know your performances from Krakow, but a lot of people who are here don't know anything about you except of press release in the festival and so on. So I don't know. Maybe you want to. So we have the web page here, your web page, and maybe you want to present some work here or no, or
if you're interested.
yes. So what here we have works Yes, Snake River Dream завтра bude, so will be tomorrow. And so what...
we can just go down a little bit.
yes.
And much more, down, and no, much more. Yeah, take this golem. Yeah. Because we talked before, we talked about the self-deciding systems and reuse and performances. I think everybody of you is more or less familiar with this golem story. It's basically that's a dream of mankind to construct a helper which is doing everything for him, and you can switch it on and off, and so he's helping you all the time. But then the golem starts developing his own ideas and his own mind, and starts working against you or making his own stuff, and then you have problems to switch it off. So that's a really short version. So because we were all the time really interested in using self-deciding systems on stage, because we like to use technology not as a tool, as a helper, or as a perfect designed instrument which is helping me playing my music or showing my video or switching the light on and off. But we want to, we always like the errors, the misunderstanding, are we communicating, are we interacting in a way, even if it's an interactive work, is it an interaction, or is it like always you do something and the system is responding, and then you're looking at it, you have to respond again. And so we in 2008 we did this project Golem, where we were just thinking about this whole subject, and we constructed a stage which is equipped with a special software we wrote, and it was dictating software, speech-to-text software, the Dragon Natural Speaking. This is commercial text-to-speech, speech-to-text software. And Elke was equipped with a microphone, so everything what she was talking was written in real time. And then we got a stream of text, live stream of text.
You have the video here.
And
Yes.
And we used this text stream. We filtered out all the words which are not so important, like and, then, a, and all this. So we keep a stream of keywords, and then we throw this stream of keywords in the Google image search machine. So we adapted the Google image search in our software, so we can throw the keywords into Google image search, and when she was talking, Google was presenting the images in a live stream some seconds later, but of course because of the download speed. And you can imagine, I think everybody knows Google image search, if you give in a keyword, sometimes you get really impressive, good examples, but sometimes it's really rubbish or really strange connections why this is showing up. So she stood there on stage talking, and in the huge projection there were always this Google stuff coming in to show the connection of the human speaking and the system and the internet responding, and this Google database. And also with all the errors, like the text software doesn't understand really good what she's talking, so sometimes it comes out totally different keywords. And
yes, the writing was really interesting, because it went to be like poems after a while, and it was really interesting how the errors mixed into the right words which have been spoken in a way that they were like answers to what we wanted to talk about, and sometimes it was fitting so well that we got new pictures which were still in the discussion, not really far away, but giving like new spices into the playing with the software and with the space, and so this was all the space was filling up with new images and imaginary situations, and always they came back to this golem idea. It was really nice to work with that as an experience of a performer. It was really interesting to have this answering machine with you, which you can sometimes. I tried to train the writing machine to understand what I was saying, and sometimes I was looking for words which it would not understand, and I don't know why some words it didn't never understand. So I used these as keywords to find new something else.
And we used the system. So when she stopped talking, the system took over. This is it's called Markov change.
Yes.
You know this?
Yeah.
So it's like a probability system. So when she stopped talking, the system took over and was creating sentences out of the whole database of what she ever talked in connection with this Markov change. So there was a text stream generated by the system. Which of course it's like a bit of this Burroughs cut up
Maybe
writing
you
style.
can run the video
Yes.
because it is showing.
Markov chain to ланцюги Маркова, тобто, що коли не говорився текст, то комп'ютер якби за тим алгоритмом генерував текст.
This is all a list about golem is.
There's some other sound panel.
Sorry?
There's some other sound panel. Okay.
No,
Okay. No.
Oh, so this is this scanning.
well, it's different sections.
It's younger.
Okay, but we can. I think we can stop here. So you see, it's more like a show. It's more like a show where she in the golden dress and sometimes singing and explaining, but also behaving really strange things, like trying to communicate with the system, like making this signs. So a really absurd interface we built there, and so it was like a really crazy show, talking about androids and robots and golems and trying to communicate with a crazy system. Perhaps you can look at works and then go down a little bit and see more. This transcode? No, there's no link. No, we up to now we didn't manage to fill this stuff. It's only 3 years ago. We will do it.
And it was made in Max?
Yes. All Max. We use Max as our basic software, and then
maybe it's on YouTube.
No. There's nothing. I think. Tomorrow I can show some stuff. No, not tomorrow. On Wednesday. I have some files from it. Because this software, this transcode dancers, you can see it on this little image there. It's a installation with 16 hanging flags of silk, like 18 centimeters long and 3 meters high, which are hanging on a metal thing, a metal arm, which can controlled by a motor. And so every fabric can move by its own. Every fabric has its own motor and a light on it. There's a sound in the room which is built by subsonic sinus sounds. And there are two Kinect sensors in the room, with this Kinect Microsoft controllers. So if somebody enters, comes near this space, and the system sees it and starts reacting. And if there's nobody in or nobody coming close, all the 16 fabrics are really doing a slow choreography of moving, like constructing rooms, like symmetrical things, or like a star or a cave, or like this kind of stuff.
They really behave like dancers.
Yeah, really slow.
And because of the movement of the fabric, it gets something like a figure.
Yeah.
Because the fabric gets twisted, and sometimes it looks like you could say mask here, gets faces or figures of persons. So you have a little bit the image of 16 ghosts dancing.
And as soon as you come closer to the installation, then the Kinect the two connects are tracking your position in space, and then you're, don't know if you are familiar with cellular automat, this game of life, Conway's game of life, or cellular automaton, this thing. It's a basic idea of, really basic idea of artificial intelligence, where you say you have a matrix, for example, like 100 to 100 pixels, and you say that two possibilities, dead or live, 0 or 1, and if you set one cell to live, and then you say render, so calculate the next stadium. And there are some rules. You can say to survive, you have to have, I think, minimum 2 neighbors, two living neighbors. Then this cell can survive. One cell alone cannot survive, and one cell with one neighbor also cannot survive. If you render it, go to the next step, this cell will die because it doesn't have enough neighbors. So it has to have, I think, minimum is two living cells. So a cell with 2 living neighbors can survive. But if it has too much neighbors, it will also die. So it is you die alone, but if you have too many, you also die because it's too many around you. And it's a really clear, defined mathematical rule. So you can say you put some cells to life in this matrix, and then okay, render, and then the system looks which cell is living in the next and not. And then you can say, okay, do this every 50 milliseconds, for example, then you can get a flashing system, black and white. And sometimes you have you put some cells in, set them to life, and they will die immediately because it's not so many not so many possibilities to live. Sometimes it's exploding and they get totally chaotic. And but the interesting thing is there are some like living creatures in this game of life. They have names like spaceships, or I can't remember. But you just have to Google it. Conway's Game of Life in Wikipedia. You see this.
Then you have some things.
Yeah, you see this that are like creatures, like they're special organization of cells, and when you render it, they are changing, but still living, and then you render it again, and then they're changing again. So when you render it fast, you see like creatures crawling, like Pac-Man things, crawling and moving, or like a star or a propeller turning, and this will go on forever. Only if you put some, if you disturb them, put some other cells, and of course you destroy the system, and it calculates again, and then perhaps it explode and then break down and whatever happens. So you have, it's not a random system; it's a totally exact calculation. But you as a human, you have no idea what comes out if you put some cells to life and then you start to go for it. You have no idea what comes out. So it's like that's why it's a basic system of artificial intelligence, because it's you do something and it takes over and it's away from you. You have no influence anymore, and you cannot say what will happen at the next stage. So what we did in this transcode dance is, if you enter this field with the two kinects, the two kinects are seeing you in this matrix and taking you as a living cell. And this position of the living cell was then calculated to this matrix of the 16 motors, and you standing there starts communicating with one of the motors and with the light. So the light starts flashing and the motor starts. And when you move in the room, the motor, you take over another motor. But if you leave the place, because it's this cellular automaton system, it will kill the other cell immediately because there's nobody anymore. But then if you run really fast, or several people are coming, then you can fill several cells at the same rendering time with life, and then it is possible that the system takes over. And then this cellular automaton starts moving, getting totally chaotic, or making this permanent patterns like these spaceships. And the whole room is starting. The whole 16 fabrics start doing crazy stuff. This flashing light, like stroboscopic light. Sometimes it's this patterns running through them, like loops. As long as you don't disturb them, they will stay forever. But if you go in, then of course because you are a living cell, then you disturb this loop. And each motor has a special sound. So they like it was filtered white noise. So it sounds sometimes like drum sounds. So when there's, for example, one of these spaceships running, it sounds like a percussion loop, but built of this filtered white noise. And as soon as you go out of this active area, the system calms down and starts again doing these really slow motion movements, like Japanese fighters practicing their sports stuff and waiting for you to kill you or something. So that was really that's really impressive room, but it's really difficult to set up, and it's still in the prototype version, so it's really all the soldering stuff and all this hardware stuff is really delicate. Perhaps we can manage it next year to build it like for traveling, but in the moment we cannot move it because we cannot take it off. It's all soldered by me and by one of our assistants, so it's not professional build. But the space which is created by it is really powerful thing, and it's not understandable for audience. If you go in, you have no idea, you don't understand it.
You cannot calculate what you
it's not
get
like
as a reaction.
it's not like an interactive installation where you make like this and then something's happening and you can call it, you can click on it. It's totally
Understandable for.
yeah. It's more like an alien creature. You're meeting an alien creature, and of course you recognize that it's reacting to you and it's also telling you something in a way. But then there should be a learning process. It's not like click on it and give me information. It's more like two different life forms meeting each other and trying to understand.
This way, this project is showing our position in front of interactive installations, which have been for a long time like things people went in to try out. If they find out how it works and do it and go out and say, okay, I understood, or it doesn't work. And, and our interactive installations don't work this way. You cannot find out how it works, and you cannot say, it does what I want.
Yes.
They are playing with you, or you are playing with that, but you have to go into it, into the space and well, come to know this creature, which is there, and not this I can order reaction.
We do this for museums. Sometimes you do this kind of stuff, of course. Then you click on it and you get the information, or you make this and then the car is coming out of the projection or something. But for our own projects, we don't like to use interactive systems in this way. We like it more like showing the possibility of non-communicating with the software system, with non-understanding, or with the possibilities of errors, and so you're not at home when you go there. It's not like a tool for you, like a remote control of a television.
Sorry. So I don't know. Maybe some people on audience, я не знаю, може в когось є якісь запитання? was so powerful. Everybody, wow.
Everybody's getting tired.
So I think that generally we also have a time to talk a little bit on Wednesday, so maybe I'll switch to Ukraine now. Але мені здається, що загалом дуже цікава позиція, дуже цікаві думки. Власне, що я хочу сказати, чим вперше, коли власне я побачив перформанси blackhole-factory в Кракові на аудіоарті і якби взагалі подивився, це є якраз такий цілком несподіваний тип поєднання музики, візуальної площини, театру, якоїсь перформативності, тому що ми зазвичай привикли стикатися, або хтось є чисто комп'ютерщик і працює чисто з технікою, і це так супер, все є чисто зроблено технічно, або хтось займається такими собі абсолютно творчими перформансами, є далекий від техніки, і ми якби відразу бачимо дуже багато хиб і так далі. Або праці, власне, є зроблені суто для того, аби показати якусь певну технологію, аби показати, я придумав щось таке, і я це покажу. Власне, в випадку blackhole-factory ми маємо дуже таку такий синтетичний сплав, де навіть речі, які здавалось би на перший погляд є абсолютно демонстрацією чистої технології, насправді за ними, так як в Големі, чи так як в цих Transcode Dancers, за ними стоять такі дуже глибокі філософські засади, і це є цікаво. Тобто, мені здається, що якраз ці перформанси чи інсталяції – це такий добрий приклад, як дійсно технологія просто від таких, загалом зрозумілих для нас тепер елементів інтеракції і так далі, переходить дійсно в якусь таку більше складнішу площину мистецьку, дійсно мистецьку, тобто де ми мусимо думати над тим, що це означає, що цей твір для нас доносить з одного боку, а з іншого боку, мені, наприклад, дуже подобається ця звукова площина в їхніх творах, такий мікс нойзу, якихось таких елементів ембієнту з всякими мелодичними, ритмічними лініями, з дуже цікавими поєднаннями цих патернів. І я сподіваюся, що завтра має бути цікавий перформанс.
Дякую.
Дякую всім, thank you for coming, and tomorrow everybody will have to watch really great performance.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us. Being interesting. Thanks.
What?